right, good afternoon and welcome to this Thursday, December 14th, Capital Investment Committee meeting. First things first, welcome Alderman Caesar to CIC.
Thank you.
Glad to have you. First things first, we'll call the roll. Alderman Blanton. Here. Alderman Caesar.
Here.
Alderman Berger is absent and the chair is here. All right. First item on the agenda is citizen comments. Not seeing any, so we will move on to approval of the minutes. This is approval of both the September 28th and the October 26th CIC meeting
Move
minutes.
for approval.
Can I get a second?
I wasn't there.
Oh, I'll second.
Okay.
It's like we need one more in here. All right. Ready to vote?
Yes, sir. But yes.
Yeah, abstain.
Yes. Let's go to new business. Item number 2, the first thing we've got for business this week is we've got to elect a new chair and vice chair effective for 2024. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that Alderman Blanton take over as chair.
Second. Let's do that one first. Ready to vote? Alderman Caesar?
Yes.
Alderman Blanton?
Sure.
Thank you. Thanks for accepting
Yeah,
that.
because it was a rough job, right?
It was.
You won out.
Not at all.
Wait till you have to fill in for the mayor, then you'll know.
Yeah, exactly. I've been there. All right, and chair votes yes. So that passes unanimously. Now for vice chair.
I will make a nomination for our newly elected Alderman Greg Caesar.
And I will
Thank
second
you.
that.
I'll accept.
Great. Ready to vote? Alderman Blanton?
Yes.
Alderman Caesar?
Yes.
And chair votes yes. All right, item number 3, consideration of final change order to City of Franklin contract number
You're
20.
doing my job already.
I thought you didn't start until the 24th. Until
No,
24.
isn't it immediate?
I think you're in. Yeah.
Well, no, you can sit right there. I'm not moving.
Take it.
It's all you. I'm just kidding.
I'm not moving.
Here.
Oh, you can keep your paper. I know how much you love it.
I do.
Item number 3, consideration of final change order to City of Franklin contract 2022-0182 with Heron Construction for water treatment plant valve access improvements project for an increased amount. However, we are going to defer this until the January CIC meeting, which is, I believe, the 25th, we decided. So,
I'll move to defer this item to January 25th
awesome.
CIC meeting.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you so much. We will start voting. Greg, how do you vote?
Yes.
Alderman Brown, I'm
Yes.
so bad at the name thing. Chair votes yes, passes. We'll see you in January, Michelle. Item number 4, consideration of ordinance 2023-38, an ordinance to establish a no parking anytime zone along a portion of Fristow Lane and a northerly portion of Straw Street. Adam, I'm
Yeah.
thinking that's you.
Yes, so this is a request made by our Parks Department for the Carter's Hill and Sullivan Cotton Gin Park. What's going on is there are people parking along these narrow, thin streets and making it very hard to navigate, especially for emergency vehicles. And they are asking for parking restriction along the frontage of lots owned by the city of Franklin. Yes.
I guess I need a motion before we can discuss.
Move to approve.
Second.
Can I
Go
ask a
ahead.
question? So you said city-owned property, and this map here is, of course, is great, but the park that's there, that's owned by the county, where is that situated by lot 124 or 1164?
This is the park. Are you talking about the park on Straw Street?
Yeah.
This is the park right here on Straw Street.
Oh, wait, you're looking at a different map.
1164. I pulled up an aerial for you. So this is the park right here by the county.
Okay, I'm looking for,
And the orange is where we're proposing the no parking zone.
okay, got it. I was just making sure, there's a family that lives right there by the park. They've been there forever. And, I just wanted to make sure we were not prohibiting parking for the park's use so that it starts shifting down in front of those residences. So I do know that Straw Street is a very narrow road. But I guess I don't have a problem with it. I wish I could have put my eyes on it physically, but. And this was
suppose my only
requested
question- my
by
only-
Battle of Franklin Trust.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are actually all owned by the city, right?
Yes.
Every
Or to
property.
be, yeah.
They are. They're in the
Yeah.
title.
Did you want to? I would imagine, I mean, I'm just foreshadowing ahead here a little bit on when that building comes down and we're trying to get views of being able to look out and see that whole battlefield and stuff. I actually think no parking has some multiple benefits. One, it's a small street, narrow street, but I think in the goal that Franklin, Battle Franklin Trust has for what they're trying to create there, not having cars stacked up there will probably be a great thing too.
Yeah.
Heard. Greg, did you have a comment?
No.
All right, we ready to vote? Alderman Caesar,
Yes.
Alderman Brown.
Yes.
Alderman Blanton votes yes. Item number 4, consideration of ordinance 2023-38, an ordinance to establish, oh, we just did that one. Y'all didn't stop me. Item number 5, consideration of draft resolution 2023-80. I need the paper, don't I? A resolution to award the construction contract for the Jordan Road Improvements Project to Jones Brothers Contractors LLC in the amount of $2,399,843. I'm not good at the numbers.
That's okay. We actually just opened this in November 30th, last day of November, and we'll bring this back to the full board for approval following the approval by law of the resolution. Hopefully the second meeting in January. Actually came in substantially under both the budgeted number and under the estimated number, was about a little over $3 million. And this is the section of Jordan Road from Aspen Grove to just short of Mallory Lanes, actually to the side road, the private drive by the movie theater. So we won't quite go to Mallory Lane with it because it's already widened by Mallory Lane. And this will actually be putting sidewalks on both sides of Jordan Road and bike lanes.
It'd be great.
And we'll be replacing, there's a culvert in the middle, right at the curve of Jordan. We'll be replacing that as well, and it will be closed during construction, unfortunately. But it'll make it go a little quicker.
Well, if they could ever get that road where it's not just like a water meter bump, trying to cut through there, but it's
Yes.
coming.
Yeah,
Now, we
it's gonna
will-
be that's gonna be great work to do. That road definitely needs it.
We will keep a portion of it open from Aspen Grove down to where the building site for they're building the garage and the large, on the corner of Aspen Grove and Jordan Road. We have an agreement with that property owner because the only vehicular access to that site, to that garage,
Is right there.
off of Jordan. So through July of 2024, we'll keep one lane access while they're still building. And then past July, while we're still constructing, we'll keep 2 lane. It'll be limited 2 lane access, so much more narrow, and we'll move that around as we need to construct. But we will keep access to that site because it's their only vehicular access.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that, because that is the only, is there turn lanes coming in on there too, or
There'll be turn lanes at Aspen Grove, but there's not a turn lane
into
design.
that garage? that
No,
pulls
there's
in?
not.
So just a straight in and out.
Correct.
This is actually the first project I started working on in 2009, so I'm
wow.
excited to see this one move forward.
So, I'll go ahead and ask for a motion, please.
Move for approval.
Second.
All right. Just to go one step further beyond that section of Jordan Road, there's the yellow don't go here. What's the long range plans for the next leg of Jordan Road that would take you to McEwen?
Years ago, there was, I think, and I'm just going off memory here, was to convert that, I believe, to like a multi-use path or some sort of greenway. But as far as any roadway or use or things like that, there's really no plans to use that.
Yeah, it's essentially a multi-use trail. I believe it has a bollard in front of it now, so
It
there's
does.
no
It does.
plans.
That's what that yellow thing's called?
Yeah.
Yes,
Mhm.
and we'll be improving that whole intersection.
Okay. All right, we're ready to vote.
Yes.
Alderman Caesar?
Yes.
Alderman Brown?
Yes.
I vote yes, so it passes unanimously. Item number 6, I'm making sure. Consideration of change order 1 and change order 2 to City of Franklin contract 2022-0116 with Stansel Electric Company for State Route 96 Murfreesboro Road traffic signal improvements for a cost increase of $60,880.
Yeah, so this is the project we let last summer that is currently waiting equipment because of the longer lead times. We hope to get started in January, February with actual work on State Route 96. Most of it's night work because it's so busy. But this is the change order for uninterruptible power supplies for the signals. That was not a pay item in the design plan, so it got missed. But because this corridor is our main corridor into the city of Franklin, we really want those lights to work when the power goes out.
Sure.
As best as possible. So We did add those in, and the other change order 2 is for the connected vehicle radios. At the time, we didn't know what vendor we were getting for the design plans. We knew there was an installation component, but they are all kind of different, how those radios are mounted. So this is for that, paying the contractor to install those radios, the connected vehicle radios. So
Awesome.
Move for approval.
Second. I do have, go ahead.
You made the motion, so you discuss
Yeah,
first.
yeah.
It was just a question. So when we originally did this, was this part of the Mac Hatcher or part of the streetscape we did on 96?
this is a separate CMAQ project with the state. So this is federal dollars, 80/20. Right now, we're trying to secure some extra funding for this change order with the MPO and GNRC to try to cover this cost, but we would be on the hook for it. But no, it's a totally separate TDOT local programs federally funded grant.
And actually, this is 100% federal funding.
Oh, sorry,
The CMAQ is 100% federal funding for typically for ITS projects. And we do have an outstanding request to the MPO for that additional funding, about $280,000 for some of the overages.
Yeah, we also had an overage on the actual bid.
And CMAQ is congestion mitigation air quality. So where you can show that you are lessening stop traffic that contributes to pollution.
Without traditional construction.
Yes, without construction. So where you can demonstrate you're raising the efficiency of intersections and of systems, and they really want to fund these. So
Yes.
that's why it's 100%
Yes.
grant funded.
So when you say, for my knowledge, when you say 100% grant funded, does that cover the cost increase or no?
Well, so there was a certain amount of funding that was applied. So we requested a grant initially for the project. And obviously, just due to time, inflation cost, it came in a little bit over what that cost was. So we don't necessarily get additional funding just with that automatically. You have to request the additional funding. So we've done that. There was no additional CMAQ funds to just automatically cover that. So we've requested additional funds through another program through the MPO. We're currently awaiting the results of that request. We feel very confident in that request because of those requests, there was about, I think, 7 or 8 additional requests through that additional program. We were actually the lowest quantity value request of that, so I'm fairly confident we'll get that request. We're just waiting to hear back for that.
And in the interim, we put the money up.
We put the money up,
We
that's
need-
correct.
Yeah, it's our judgment. We need to do this regardless. We hope
Yes.
we'll get the grant money. And
Correct.
this is rolled into that request, correct?
It is, the 280.
So we're cautiously optimistic we'll get it, but
Yes.
regardless, in the grand scheme of things, this makes it work better. It's
Yes.
something we want to do.
And when these go into the uninterrupted power supply, do they blink or do they continue to run as normal lights? when
They
the power's-
continue to run
Yes.
Interesting. Okay, great. Thank
for
you.
2 hours, and then they will go to flashed so the batteries are there for about a couple hours. And most of our power outages are very short term.
Yeah.
And
We
generally,
hope that
these are just at
continues.
the major intersections is where they had those, not at all intersections.
Yeah, we have them at all 13 though. This is for all 13, so it'll be good.
On
The whole
96.
corridor will be
Yes.
lit
Yeah,
up.
from Eddie Lane all the way to Arno.
Great. All right.
Cool. Y'all ready to vote?
Yes.
Alderman Caesar?
Yes.
Alderman Brown?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, passes unanimously. Last item on the agenda, number 7, capital projects dashboard and status updates. Jonathan, do you have favorites you want to talk about?
So
or
the few I
does that
mentioned,
have a
we,
couple of questions.
the few I mentioned, we talked about Jordan Road, Harlansdale Barn, the restoration of the barn and the renovations of the barn actually goes out to bid this Sunday. So that'll be out for bids for the next month,
We
month and a half.
found that out Tuesday.
So that'll be out for bids over the holidays and into January. I believe the opening date for that is the 24th. If we need to extend, we can, but tentatively, we'll open bids on the 24th of January for that. If you haven't driven down West Main, the Margaret Martin.
I
West
know, you
Main-
took mine.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Well, and they moved the barriers one day, and I was like, oh, I can see like a
Yeah,
wall. It was
so
really
we've
cool.
gotten the parapet
been
rail.
well
It's
received,
the
too.
parapet. Actually, I knew people walk down that way, but every time I've been to the site during the middle of the day, every time I've been out there, there've been multiple people coming down. There's one gentleman that walks with his small dog every day, and he kind of walks a normal speed until he gets to that section where we had the barrier rails up, and he would scoot through that section really fast and ask about the wall every time or the
You mean
sidewalk.
you didn't believe Margaret?
Oh, I believe Margaret. I never doubted, but I didn't realize how many people were there. So the only things we have left really on that site now at this point are just minor cleanup and getting the final striping done. But as far as the sidewalk itself, the sidewalk's open to traffic. The road's back open, the parapet's up, the wall's up, the bridge is all done. So that site's pretty much open up and ready to go now.
Awesome. Okay, so I don't drive down Franklin Road a lot, especially beyond Liberty Pike, but I noticed the other day, coming from Mac Hatcher into town, that we have and you'll be like, it's been there all along. what would seem to me as a new run of sidewalk on the west side of Franklin Road, like across from Harpeth Industrial in front of Harlansdale. Has that been there all along? And the other interesting thing is, it's not just sidewalk with like a seam. It's like this weird, like square.
So that's part of the streetscape pattern. It's called a window pane pattern.
But has it been there like for months?
Yes. Sorry.
Okay.
Now, one thing on
Maybe
that.
the light just.
One
shone
thing
just
on that
right.
particular side of the road that kind of throws it off a little bit, it's separated from the road because those utility boxes are there, and it's lower than the roadway there, so it's not immediately noticeable
Not
as you
as
drive
visible.
by.
Okay, thank you. See,
Yes.
I feel so much
there
better. Any questions on any capital projects?
It's not necessarily a capital project, but the sidewalks going in over Carlisle, awesome, by the way. I've been getting a lot of
Good.
happy people reaching
Great.
out. We got a little bit of, did we have a little bit of a bump? We had to get
Yeah.
some new piping in or something like that, right?
Yeah, we had
Yeah, the
to
reclaimed
extend
water,
some
right?
reclaimed water
Yeah.
just so that we didn't have to tear it out later. I don't know exactly where that's at right now.
They had the forms
but I
in
could
place
check.
like last weekend. I drove by it. I'm like, they're ready to go. So
Yeah.
hopefully it's
You made a lot
done.
of people happy with
Yeah,
that.
Yeah, well, y'all did. I don't make those decisions, so.
yeah, that was good.
Greg, do you have any questions about any projects? Mayor?
Well, I'm good. I love the update on the Harlansdale bond.
Bidding,
I told the group the other day, I said, it's coming soon.
bidding, remind us again on bidding on Southeast Park, Robinson Lake, and since Bev isn't here,
Yeah.
McEwen
Oh, don't say
4.
the word.
Let's hear that.
So Southeast Park, right now, what we're working through is, we're working through the final specs and working with our designer and the geotechnical. We're trying to make sure that we've got our bases covered on the earthwork out there because there's so much massive mass grading out there, earthwork, that we want to make sure that we don't enter into that project knowing how large it is and get surprised with any sort of immediate change orders with massive rock. So we've circled back around with the consultant to make sure that we've got our bases covered there and having them reevaluate our recommendations there to go in. So they're getting back with the geotechnical folks right now. We still hope to bid that one early. We had hoped to bid it this month, at least by this month, but we're still looking probably towards January. We're just waiting on getting that
People
back.
ask me about that all the time.
It's on the cusp of bidding.
When's the
There's
park coming? When's the playground
It's on the
coming?
cusp of bidding. We still, the plans are done. We're just on the cusp of getting those final specs done and where we're comfortable with bidding. We just don't want that surprise major change order.
Yeah, we're trying to make sure we set it up in a manner which it's fair to the contractor to bid, no surprises to them, but also no surprises to us after the bid. And that's the one final thing we're working through.
So when do
It
you
is-
think we're moving dirt at?
Moving,
At
physically
Southeast
moving,
Park.
physically moving dirt, you're still talking spring, but bidding out, you're
yeah.
talking sometime late January.
And you're probably at spring. If you put that bid out today, it'd probably be spring.
Oh, if you were
You're
bidding right
working
now, you're
anyway,
spring.
'cause
You,
it's sort
you
of a
would not
difficult
want to
time.
be out there right now this time of year. It's tough because you're working with clay materials out there in the bend of the river in an area that's prone to flooding. That material is very difficult to work. So you don't want to be
You
out
want
there in this
spring
time of
weather.
year. You want spring weather.
January
anyway.
bid, then we'll be awarding in
Couple months
February,
later,
March
yeah.
timeframe, and then a notice to proceed.
And Lisa covered this, but just to make sure you all have it, we're going to bid that in parallel with Robinson Lake. We're
Yes.
hopeful that that will help the bidding. You know, there's enough critical
more
mass that you might have somebody,
attractive.
bid both and do it that way. So,
But at least highlight
yeah.
attention to them both.
We had bid just Robinson Lake mid this year, and it was sky high. So we've revisited it, and then we decided this strategy of putting those out there together might help us get sort of the critical mass of work that you might have people say, well, I can work both of these. They can complement each other.
Especially
So-
since they're adjacent sites.
Yep, exactly.
Well, and if memory serves on CIC, as far as deliverable, it looked like 2025 maybe, I think. And I was like, oh, but
Yep.
And right now we have set up the time frame. So just so that's not a shock to anybody. We do expect it to be a 3-year project.
We had 6
phase
bidders.
one,
Phase one.
Phase
Yes, that's correct.
We had 6 bidders on Jordan Road, which was really encouraging because typically now we're getting about 2.
Yeah.
We had 3 when we bid Robinson Lake last time, and
Yeah.
they were not motivated to bid that project.
Yes,
So
every
we're-
bidder that picked
we're
up plans
hopeful.
for Jordan Road actually submitted a bid, which it has not happened in probably years.
That could be a good sign.
Yes,
Timing.
Rising costs.
But,
Yes.
Projects.
yeah.
yes.
well, and they probably need the work.
Yep.
McEwen, as far as McEwen's
Yeah.
concerned, we're in the final stages of permitting. Unfortunately, the permitting's taking us a little bit longer than anticipated. So as soon as that permitting gets done, we're preparing to submit to TDOT. That'll go back to them with the utility certification, which is underway right now. Those are the 2 big holdups. Once those are done, then we will be able to get the notice to proceed for construction and go out to bid. So right now, realistically, it's probably February, March timeframe to be getting that notice to proceed. We were shooting for the end of the year, but the permitting is going to take us a little bit longer than anticipated.
And is this all the way to Wilson Pike, or is it?
All the way to Wilson Pike. And you'll also see next month on the board agenda, an amendment with our TDOT agreement that extends the contract completion deadline. It's just a time extension, but it has to go with TDOT to make sure we're securing our federal funds.
And we're also working additional funding. Do we have any update on that?
That'll be, so one of the things we're doing also while we're doing the utilities, we have to submit an updated cost estimate and the bid book, and we're going through the quantities right now to make sure that we've, checked everything, slimmed any unnecessary cost or anything that's just incorrect out of the bid estimate. We'll actually, when we get that approved through TDOT and we know that final number, I'll then go back to the MPO, which I have to go back to the MPO anyway to get an updated tip sheet from the MPO to show that we have funding and that we will cover any lapse in the funding levels, because we have 22.4 million in federal funding. The city will cover any additional. We know there'll be additional funding that needs to be covered there. At that point, I will then ask the MPO for additional STBG funds.
Lastly, for me, okay, go ahead, you go first. So the last 2 days, there's been something going on in Macatcher between 96 and Royal Oaks that's made traffic like, I know ways around it, I'm just gonna say, but what's going on?
It's TDOT maintenance resurfacing.
Okay.
So they're milling and overlaying some bad patches on the
Yeah,
road
it's
there.
really wreaking
We didn't get any notice.
Okay. Oh, one of those situations.
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah.
And when do they expect to be done?
We haven't gotten any communications
Understood.
from them.
Haven't
I've
told you.
tried. I've actually got an email out and a phone call, and I have not received anything back.
Okay.
Glad you asked that question. I would have said it's actually been since Monday, I think is when
Well,
I
I guess
first
I went to
noticed
work
it.
the other way.
Yeah.
Matt?
On Bicentennial, I meant to ask this on Tuesday. We're grading for the parking, but that's not funded. Are we just blowing seed back on that grass, or are we gonna gravel it? What are we gonna do with that grading once it's done?
It'll be seed and grass.
It'll just be seeded grass.
Awesome. If nobody has anything else, I'll entertain
I've
a
got
motion.
one quick
Oh, go for
report,
it.
which few people may know, but I'll be on a call tomorrow with Commissioner Ely, who's going to release, or at least be talking to us about the projects in the Transportation Modernization Act. So keep your
Oh,
fingers
yeah, it was the
crossed.
15th, and tomorrow's the 15th.
18th is when we'll hear official word.
Official word's 18th,
Yeah, Mayor gets the pre-information, so
the pre-information.
We'll look to see if the
And I will
mayor's smiling
share it.
tomorrow afternoon or not.
He's for a price. Yeah. Yeah, this is the information for the statewide partnership program we submitted for the offering to put in an additional $5 million toward design and NEPA to help push that along.
Great.
And I will give some additional information there. I think Eric shared this information, but over 100 projects were submitted statewide. They narrowed that down to 66 projects, and half of those 66 roughly were submitted from our region. Of course, our region is 26 counties, and that's for $350 million. And that sounds like a lot of money. Excuse me, $750 million. But from the Transportation Modernization Act, sorry, I'm getting tongue-tied there. It's my understanding that at least one major interstate project will be done for each region out of that. And of course, TDOT will inevitably
That's a big
use a lot of that money for their own project. It's all state funds, though they're going to use part of that funding anyway. So it won't stretch as far as we hope. But hopefully we'll get some good news tomorrow, and Mayor will bring us home something good.
Well, hopefully we'll get some of that other money from some of those other regions.
Absolutely. That's what we're hoping.
And putting 5 million in does make a difference.
Absolutely.
That we put
That's-
substantial
Is that budgeted?
partnership. Well, we're pulling it from our available funds. We don't have a yes yet, but that's the idea, that we would pull it from
Or surplus? or
reserves
what?
that we have available.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
That's one of the things TDOT has been very consistent about over the years, regardless of who's been their chief engineer, their commissioner, is communities that are willing to step forward and kind of and put skin in the game, so to speak, have been, that's how you get those projects moved to the head of the line.
Got it. All right.
Move to adjourn.
Awesome.
Second.
All in favor? Peace out.